Hey everybody, happy Friday. It's Shannon Graham Cornell again, coming to you from actually our guest bedroom today. But the reason I'm doing that is it is time for another installment of Favorite Thing Friday. So what we're going to be talking about today is actually my favorite wall-mounted storage solution that I love to use and have used in our home. And I wanted to talk to you about that today. And we have it installed in one of our guest bedrooms in one of the closets. So that's why I'm sitting in here talking to you. I'm actually going to do this in two parts. So the first part I'm going to do is talk to you about the product itself for today. And then next time we will talk about the how and why for how I used it and how I used it to actually organize a hobby / craft space. So we used it in our home to organize our home brewing equipment. So we took one of the guest bedrooms, took the closet that from the guest bedroom, tore out what was in here, which was just your standard, hanging rod and shelf, and instead added this system to the closet so that we could turn this closet into our homebrew equipment storage spot. So I want to show that to you now, show that product to you now. And then, like I said, next time we'll talk about the how and the why of the organizing the organizing principles behind it. But to start with, I want to give you a look at the system itself. So I'm going to switch the camera around here so you can see. I'm going to pull back a little bit. But what you're looking at here is this is a wall-mounted system from IKEA, and it's called the ALGOT system. So it's ALGOT. And when this video gets posted, I will add a link to the IKEA website that will take you to where you can look at all the different components of the system, and also a really handy buying guide they have that explains all the different kind of configurations that you can have for the system. This is my favorite, and I'll talk about my favorite shelving system for inside the home for a couple of reasons. One, the price point is really reasonable. Container Store does have a version of this, but it is a lot more expensive, and so I like this one for larger installments like what we've got here. So I want to just show you kind of how it's set up here. So it's essentially upright tracks, like you see back here, and then various components that you can attach to those upright tracks using these brackets. We used in this system, we used all shelving because that's what we needed for what we were storing in here. But the components that you can get are really varied. They have pull-out rails that attach to these brackets that you can then attach baskets to that are either wire or mesh, or they could be solid plastic with or without a lid. So you can basically turn this into a drawer system. They have shoe organizers and drying racks and clothing rods and what other? I guess that's and a variety of shelving, of course. The shelving comes in, and the components come in several different widths and several different depths. Your weight tolerance that you can get for the shelving is really anywhere from for the most narrow and shallow wooden shelf, it'll hold 44 pounds per shelf, but the widest and deepest and metal shelving can hold something like 130 pounds. So it's a really nice combination of widths and depths and components and weight tolerances. So it's really really flexible for what it is that you're going to be using it for. So a couple of other things I wanted to point out about this in terms of why I like it. Again, you can see here that we've got narrower shelving to hold these baskets, and I'll talk about why we've got these baskets here when we talk next time. But then wider shelving for larger components, and then again more narrow shelving over here. But you can see I've got two uprights. Looking around the equipment here, but I've got an upright here and then a second one over here with these components attached. There's also a third one back in the corner over here that you can't see behind the basket, but you'll take my word for it. But again, you attach those wherever you want, and then you're able to add in whatever components match what it is you're trying to store here. The main thing I want to point out is actually, and why I love this so much, is so very often when we are trying to put a shelf mounted on a wall, the ideal scenario is that you have your shelf attached to studs. And I don't think ever in my life have I had it work out so that I can attach both of my supports, or however many supports I need, to an appropriate stud and still have the shelf be centered on the wall or centered in whatever space I'm trying to fit it in. And which can be really frustrating. So you end up trying to use, crazy strong anchors, but you're still attaching to just drywall, and it's really not the best scenario. So what I like about this system is that it uses what they call both they use this word intermittently, but I'll show you up here. This is at the very top of the shelving system. They call it either a suspension rail or a mounting rail, but it's essentially the same thing. And I'll flip this back around here. So essentially what you're doing is you are attaching that rail to your studs, and then your uprights can go anywhere you want them to go. I mean, obviously they have to go, they have to accommodate the width of whatever component it is that you're putting in there. But you don't have to worry about where the studs are to determine where you're going to put your uprights. And that makes a huge difference. So you mount the suspension rail or the mounting rail in and attach it via the studs. And then there are screw holes, and I'll show you here. Flip it back around again. Here, so I'm showing you one of the uprights and one of the screws in the uprights. So there are screws in there, but it's really just to hold the upright stable on the wall. And we used the little plastic kind of self-tapping anchors on the uprights just so that they're nice and sturdy. They're not going anywhere, but the weight of the structure is really being transferred to that mounting rail and that suspension rail. So that meant I could center my shelves exactly as I wanted them, and that was huge for me. So I love the system for the suspension rail reason. You don't actually have to use them. So, if you don't want to use a suspension rail, you don't need to, but I definitely recommend that. I think it makes life, especially when you're doing a closet installation like this, it makes life so much easier. So that's the one reason I recommend it. The other is, I've mentioned before that flexibility is, and the ability to adjust your whatever organizing product you're using, your ability to make it be flexible is really important. And the thing I like about this is, if I decided one day that I wasn't going to store my home brewing equipment in here anymore, and I wanted to convert it to baskets and bins and clothing rails, I could totally do that. And the components come out. I can swap them out for whatever I want to, move things around. I could even move the uprights if I wanted to. I'd have to patch some holes if I did that, or be content with holes in my walls. But you can still move the stuff around, and it's really flexible. So I am not a fan of built-in shelves. I mean, unless they're like old, like beautiful, but like you find in, like older homes. So those are fine, but I like those for the aesthetic, not so much the function. So this is nice because you don't have to worry about committing to one structure, and then if you change your mind, oh no, what am I going to do? So I really like this unit. I will put a link to the IKEA site, two places. One is a link to their buying guide, which explains kind of the whole system. It's really nice, and different examples for how you could use it. And then also a link to the section of the IKEA store that is focused on the ALGOT system. They also have a planner, which is a lot of fun. You can put in your measurements for the wall, and then you can drag and drop the pieces and design it that way. So that's kind of fun to play with. So I'll put a link to that also once this gets posted. But I wanted to show you that system, and then next time, like I said, we're going to talk about how I determined how to organize this space. So we're going to talk about and then why I use this particular product. So we'll talk a little bit more about hobby and craft spaces next time. But I wanted to introduce you to the product today. So again, this is the ALGOT system by IKEA. So, okay, thanks everybody. I will see you tomorrow, and we'll talk about organizing hobby and craft rooms. But for now, I'm signing off, and I will see you next time. Bye.